All right, we ready? And grab your bag and go. That's it. Move, move. Go, 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 go. One, Armani suits and run.
Manager to cash register. Manager to cash register.
All right. Week 2, Armani suits and run for the 2025-26 season. Really solid week 1 for us. 3-2. Felt like we could have had 5-0. Feels like it was within our grasp. And the gambling gods just ripped it out of our hands. But to recap the picks, our 3 winners. Kiernan had the Browns +5, great read. In terms of the Browns staying close, Bengals notorious slow starters. Definitely saw that. Myles Garrett, big problem for that Bengals O-line. Bowen, feel like you scratched and clawed with that pick all game long, but the Rams prevail, -3 over the Texans. Really nice win there. And then Costanza. All 3 of us were on the Bears +1.5. That triggered the Costanza rule. Automatic flip to the Vikings -1.5. Looked grim there early. Bears came out to a hot start, but Vikings just kind of caught up and warmed down over the course of the game. And it was a great read by Costanza there. So those are the 3 ones. The 2 losses, tough to take. Really tough. One was my pick, Seahawks +2.5. I missed it, but Kieran, you said 10-10 game. They were deep into the 49ers territory, and it got to what, fourth and like half a foot?
Pretty much.
And they opted to kick the field goal, made it. So they took the lead, had the lead with a couple minutes left. And then Brock Purdy led the 49ers down the field and ends up throwing a touchdown pass. Just an incredible play. I mean, the DB was there. Like, he actually looked like he had a legitimate shot to pick it off, and some third string tight end just stepped right in front of him, caught it, touchdown. Felt like we were done. And then all of a sudden, Darnold hits a big pass down the field. Who did he complete it to? Do you remember?
It was probably
JSN.
JSN. I mean,
Yeah,
because
J
he
it
had
was
150
JSN.
of his 180 yards. So
Yeah. I mean, just an incredible play. And all of a sudden, felt like we had a shot. And I think the very next play, gets hit by his own guy, fumbles the ball, 49ers recover, and we lose. That was tough. Felt like we kind of had that the whole game, and then just watched it slip away at the end there. And then the brutal one, Kieran and I were on the Ravens -1.5. Bowen, you were on the Bills,
Yep.
and had a 15 point lead on 2 different occasions. 15-point lead going into the fourth quarter. Bills came all the way back. Derrick Henry fumble was brutal. And then I think on their next drive, Ravens had like a fourth and 3, 4th and 4. Get the first down. They would have put the game away. Opted to punt. Bills went down the field, scored, won the game. Just brutal,
Yep.
brutal. So, but I mean, overall, like, with the picks we had, again, like, really close to a 5-0 week. Felt like we had good reads across the board. Just had a couple things that didn't go our way late. Um, you know, you could say that we actually didn't read the Monday night game well, but I think, credit to us for knowing ourselves, and implementing the Costanza rule and knowing, when we're all on the same side like that, that's the right thing to do. So, great
I feel
reads.
like
Any
the
thoughts?
Costanza rule it was so perfect because everything that we did say about the Bears came true kind
Yep.
of on that first like quarter of the game, half of the game. But the lights looked too bright for McCarthy. The Bears were running down the field and seemed like they actually had a competent offense and it all went to shit. It would have been exactly the way we lose to go like 2-3 on the week if we had the Bears. If we didn't Costanza ourselves. So
Yep.
it was
Yep.
it was good. Good to get one.
yeah, I
Costanza
mean,
early.
you go 3-2 every week. That's 60% right there. I mean, almost certain that's at least around the money.
Gotta
Yeah,
be
I
right.
think yeah, I think that's kind of the standard. I mean, even when we first joined this years and years ago, like, I mean, that was, Jose and I, that was what we would always say, is you can go 3-2 every week. You're going to be right there in the mix at the end. So,
Yeah, and it's
you
like I
know,
said
so,
last week, like that's kind of like, playing bogey golf for an amateur or,
yeah,
for closer to a scratch golfer, shooting par every hole. And then, you hope that you can have those birdie weeks where you go with
yep,
a 4-1 or an eagle 5-0. And, you just try and limit those bogeys where you go, sub 500. And,
yep,
you're at least going to be in the mix.
Yep.
yeah. So, all right. Should we get into week 2?
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, but you see Eckler just fucking
Yeah, he tore his
blow blow his Achilles out, yeah.
100%.
Did he, did he really?
Yeah, no doubt.
All right.
Jesus.
We're ready?
Yeah.
Yeah. Did he do that years ago when he had that big injury, or was that
I don't
was
know
it?
if it was an Achilles with him.
Wow.
I
Look at
think he
that. That
may
is
have may have been his knee.
that was right on the line. All right. I'm leading off. Um, kind of didn't want to go first this week. All right, I'm gonna do it. Because this is probably of my 3 picks, this is the one that scares me the most, so I'm going with it. I'm taking the Jaguars plus 3.5 over the Bengals. Bengals are, we've seen this before. They are slow starters. It's week 2. I like the way the Jaguars looked last week. Um, Lawrence seems healthy. Etienne is healthy. Seems like he's going to be the lead back in this offense. Obviously, they traded away Tank Bigsby, but he looked rejuvenated. They've got a ton of weapons. Um, Travis Hunter, ton of targets. I mean, he didn't, pick up a bunch of yards, but they're feeding him. And I think with the Bengals and how they start slow and just some of the questions that they have on defense, I think the Jaguars getting 3 with the hook. I like them to stay in it. I like them to stay close. So I like that side of it. So I'm going Jags plus 3.5.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't really have much of a read on this, or I guess I did have a read. It was more of I didn't have much of a lean. Um, I can kind of see it for both. I think that against this Jags defense, I think that the Bengals passing game can get a little bit deeper, so it's not just going to be Chase and Higgins. I think that like Yoshivas, like out of the slot, can be pretty productive. Using Mike Gesicki in the slot can be sort of a productive strategy, but. Yeah, I mean the Jags versus Cincy, I think on paper it's a pretty good matchup when you're looking at how they're pretty bad against tight ends. So this is a good spot for Brenton Strange. They play a lot of zone coverage. That's kind of where he starts to step up a little bit. And I think that if they can run it like they did last week, then I think that it's a really good number. Because otherwise, I'm not totally sold on Trevor Lawrence as a quarterback. He missed a ton of throws last week. I mean, Brian Thomas had like 7 yards. He scored a touchdown, but it was on an end around. And then he missed Travis Hunter on a good bit of targets as well. So I think it's all about whether or not they can establish a run game, maybe run some play action, have Brenton Strange kind of sneak off and take advantage of that matchup. But yeah, I mean, I could see both sides of this one.
All I really have, I agree with everything both of you said. It'll definitely be a close game. So I like having the hook there. Brian Thomas is incredibly due. I think what was it? He had like 2 receptions or something like that and had like 9 targets or something like that. They just weren't connecting him and Lawrence, and I like them to, with Liam Cohen in the mix now, I like them to, find their stride a little bit against the weaker Bengals defense. So I think he's kind of inevitable. Week in week out. So I like him to get back on track. Big day from him, and yeah, fuck yeah.
All right. Back to the wheel.
All right.
Give me the Eagles. I think they're -1 on the road in Kansas City. Um, Super Bowl rematch. Really, I think not much has changed for either team as far as roster. Build and the main players. I know the Eagles have lost a good bit of their defense over the offseason. But they still, I mean, they really still have so many guys there. Just kind of going off what we've seen this year. The Chiefs obviously started off a little slow. Chargers looked like world beaters last week. Um, Chiefs are down worthy early. They're working with Juju Smith, uh, Hollywood Brown, Travis Kelsey, a couple old running backs who didn't look too explosive, um, and a rookie left tackle. Against, Jalen Carter, who will be playing. I know we had the spitting incident last week to start the season, but he will be playing. He will be making a difference, being disruptive. Getting that pressure from the inside, which has always been, how you beat good quarterbacks. And Jordan Davis has been on the field a lot more this year, or was in week 1. So, um, I think even though the Chiefs are really good at stopping the run, like they had shown last year in the Super Bowl, they kind of had Saquon bottled up. Hurts also showed that he's able to move the ball. On this Chiefs defense that's really, 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 really similar as last year, through the air and with his legs. So I just like them to kind of remain the better team. I think just up and down the roster they're a lot better, and I don't know how many points the Chiefs can realistically put up shorthanded real early in the season.
Yeah, this is another game I passed on. I think it's one of those, it's a big game, so you want to have a side, but I really couldn't necessarily decide on one. Yeah, I mean, the Chiefs secondary, they definitely got torn up a little bit by the Chargers passing game. I think that was a bit of a surprise for a lot of people last week because people were probably expecting more of a run heavy script, especially playing a foreign game on a Friday, maybe just hand the ball off, play a little safe. Um, Definitely don't love, teams that are, coming back from those. I don't really know what their records are. It just feels like that's got to be something exhausting, even with the extended rest. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely weird, right? I mean, Worthy, I think he's going to be limited in practice. I don't know if he's going to be playing or not. It did look like Mahomes is starting to get pretty comfortable with the kind of ragtag group that he has right now. I know Goddard is questionable for this week. I think he hurt his knee, something like that. Yeah, it just feels like a weird matchup. I mean, I see Mahomes as a home underdog, but then I looked it up and it looks like he's only closed as a home underdog once in his career, and that was to the Bills, and he lost, by 4 points. So, I would have expected things to be maybe more in his favor, but also I don't know how many times I expected him to be a home dog. So,
Hmm.
yeah, I mean, I feel like this one could probably end up being a bit of a coin flip, which I mean is obviously indicative of the spread.
Yeah, I had Eagles on my card. I I think when I look at these two teams, especially on paper, and um, I feel like the Eagles are the better team. Obviously they took a little while to get warmed up, and I think even kind of didn't see like the full power, the full muscle of their offense, in week 1. Didn't really get AJ Brown involved. Devontae Smith was, limited in terms of his involvement, but, still got the job done. But, I think that D line can, get some pressure going. And I just think in terms of the offense, like just a better football team right now. So I like them only laying a point. I like the Eagles here, so I like the pick.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a game where we're probably going to find out a lot about both of these teams just because
Yeah.
it could be one of those where, Vegas is maybe blessing us with a spread there with the Eagles as such
Yep.
underdogs if the Chiefs really are, maybe starting to lose it a little bit, or, this is an opportunity for the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes to kind of show like, hey, we might have a weaker roster, but maybe they're going through their, 2010s Tom Brady era where, he really doesn't have many guys to throw to and he still may do. So I do think that this is going to be, a pretty telling game and maybe one of those where we look back 10 weeks from now and be like, yeah, it's pretty obvious that the Chiefs lost it going into this year or,
Yeah.
or maybe the Eagles are just that dominant or any type of storyline. So yeah, I'm curious to see
I
how it
mean, it'll be
goes.
yeah. I mean, Chiefs could be 0-2 after this week, which is interesting too.
I
It's a
do
tough.
also like, I didn't mention it, but I do like A.J. Brown to, after that one catch for 8 yards, I think it was last week, to try to
Mhm.
feature him a little bit more, obviously get him, targets. I think that there's going to be a little bit there where I think he's going to get, it's at least a touchdown and a solid outing on the board. Just because last week was kind of such a weird, and Smitty too, for that matter. I think Smitty only had a few catches for not the most yards. So both those guys are kind of due. So I like them to show out a bit.
Yeah, and it was kind of tough to get a read off of that game too, because it just felt like all offensive momentum died once they had that weather delay. So,
Yeah, it was like the whole
I
second
mean,
half was
yeah,
scoreless,
we
right?
basically lost an entire half
Yeah,
for both teams. So, I mean, even with the Cowboys, it kind of makes it a little bit more of a tough evaluation, especially because, like the tape, like Dak looked really good, but the stats weren't all that impressive. I mean,
yeah.
had a few big, penalties like that deep ball to Pickens where he drew the pass interference and everything. I mean, and so when you see it in slow-mo, you realize that he probably could have caught it if he just tried to get his second hand up. But yeah, I mean, yeah, it's just, we were basically dealing with a half of stats for both offenses in that game. So it does make it a little more tough to have a week two evaluation.
All right, back to the wheel.
All right. My notes. Where is it? I'm going back to the Browns at plus 11 and a half. I really like that big number. Coming off a primetime game where they blow that big of a lead, that's just brutal. So, I'm looking at the defensive matchups and that Baltimore defense, they were looking pretty solid for a good chunk of that game. And then Josh Allen comes in the fourth quarter. And of course, right, it's Josh Allen. He's the reigning MVP. So it is a little bit different than, a 40-year-old Joe Flacco. But Flacco's one of the QBs that really stands in the pocket and just slings it. When he plays, they're going to throw the ball a lot. They didn't run it a lot last week. They were throwing it a lot. Dylan Sampson was catching a bunch of balls out of the backfield. But I mean, yeah, last year they allowed the most passing yards and the 10th most pass touchdowns. They got diced up last week. I think that Baltimore, it's a good rushing matchup for them. But like I said last week, I mean, this Browns defense is sneaky pretty good. And, they held the Bengals to 7 yards in the second half. So, even though it is more of a good rushing matchup, I think that plays well for such a big spread, right? You can look at Lamar for like rushing yards and everything like that. They might try and punch it in with Derrick Henry, but I think that secondary can do a pretty decent job, against these wide receivers. So I think that kind of bodes well for trying to force more of a close game. So I'll take the Browns here, and I think that even if they aren't winning these games, I do think they can still be a very competitive bad team. So everything that I said last week kind of applies to this week with them as well.
Yeah, I mean, 11 and a half is a shit ton of points for a week two game, regardless of who the teams are. So whenever a number's that big, I know Benny's on the scent. So yeah, no, I mean it
Yeah, I
makes
mean,
sense. I like it.
I had two other underdogs that I like this week, but I just figured, I mean, this was still the one that jumped out to me because of one, maybe I have just found one of those teams that's a great spread team and I'm on them early, but also when you think about it like that, and then you also look at the stats and realize it's a pretty good matchup for, what that offense tries to do as well, and I feel like at those points you got to play it.
Also, like Miles Garrett, like can just absolutely flip a field in 2 seconds always. Um, which they're never really out of it. When you have a guy like that, and Denzel Ward as well, he's also an all pro type cornerback. So they have the studs on defense to keep any game close. So
Yeah, I mean, and last year they played twice, obviously, and then one of those games was 29-24. The week 18 game was a bit of a blowout, 25 points, but I mean, I'm not gonna put too much stock. I'm trying to see how did things go. I mean, things didn't necessarily go great a couple years ago. I mean, they did have a close one with Flacco at quarterback 2 years ago, 33-31. So, that was in Baltimore as well. So they can stand in there and they can play hard and um yeah, I don't know. I just like it at such a big number. I'm gonna try and ride that team.
fuck yeah.
Yeah, I like it with the number, and I think obviously they were facing the Bills and Josh Allen, but the Ravens gave up over 40 points.
Yeah.
I mean they gave up yards, they gave up points, and Kieran, as I think you said, like the Browns are going to throw it, and they've got some weapons too. I mean, Tillman downfield, Judy's all over the field. Obviously they got Njoku. You said Samson catching a lot of balls out of the backfield. So, I think they can probably move the ball a little bit, and
Yeah, and I
again,
like
like,
that they're kind of feeling themselves too. Grant Delpit, they asked him about tackling Derrick Henry. He said it's no problem, and maybe those are some famous last words, but I also think that it could just be a sign of how they feel about themselves, especially after how they played, especially in that second half last week against such a good offense. So, I'm going to take it as more of a sign of confidence than delusion, and it could also be a little bit of both, but I think you need that, and yeah, I think that they're feeling good going into this matchup. So.
oh, and, I mean, they've also, it's not like they haven't faced them, I mean, that in the same division, saw them twice last year. They kind of know what to expect. They know what's up. So, um, they'll be ready for them, but it's a big number, especially early. So I like it.
Yeah.
All right, let's spin for the primetime games.
That three, 3.5.
Uh,
Falcons or dogs.
yeah,
Falcons are getting
so
three
is
and a
at
half.
home -3.5.
Mm.
Yeah.
We'll start with Bowen.
Um, I like the Falcons. I think the Vikings grand scheme, probably a better outfit, but that first half of JJ McCarthy, and kind of the whole, body of work there. Um, he had some bad moments and he had some moments where the lights were a little too bright. I know he ended up coming out on top, but they weren't eye-popping numbers. He had a lot of, you know, interesting moments in that game. And I think you know, I think the Falcons run a lot more competent offense than the Bears. They should be able to put up a little bit more points than the Bears did. And if the Vikings give the Falcons that chance to maybe run away with the game like they kind of gave the Bears and the Bears couldn't do it, I think the Falcons may be able to. I think they have the horses to put up the numbers. So Falcons with the points, I like it.
Okay.
All right. I'm on the Vikings here. I like Kevin O'Connell as a coach. I was looking at, I put it on the house call sheet where both coaching staffs, they come from that McVay tree. We could see a big scoring game here. When the Vikings and the Rams played last year, they combined for 50 points. The Vikings and the Falcons also played last year, and Minnesota won 42-21. Um, Cousins threw for 344 yards there, so Penix could still be putting up big numbers, but Darnold had 347 yards. He had 5 touchdowns. They just went absolutely nuts. So I think that Kevin O'Connell knows how to scheme for the Raheem Morris defense. I think that he kind of knows what to expect from the blanking on the offensive coordinator's name, but he knows what to expect from that offense. And I think that he's just a really good coach. I think that they might be feeling good coming off of coming off of that kind of comeback win, and then how they sort of ran away with it at the end against Minnesota, division rival. They're playing at home now, so JJ McCarthy gets to start in his hometown in week one, then go back to Minnesota and kind of try to settle in there. But I think it's just a good matchup for the running backs there, especially Aaron Jones, who we saw get a bunch of receiving work last week. And it's another good receiving matchup for him, but also guys like Jalen Nailor, they can get a little bit more involved because those are the types of guys that, the wide receiver twos that play outside. They've played pretty well against this Atlanta defense as well. So I just really like the offensive matchup. I think the Vikings defense is really good. They can get a lot of pressure on Michael Penix, who really isn't too mobile anyways. So, I like them at home, even at, slightly over a field goal.
All right. Deciding pick. Um, I'm on the Falcons. Uh, plus 3.5. Looks like Drake London's expected to play. Love Bijan. Love that we're gonna get to see him in prime time. Um, and I mean, I like this Falcons team. I know they didn't get the win last week, but thought they played really well. That Tampa team's that's a good squad. And I mean, yeah, like that Vikings defense does look really good. And I think obviously that's what, kept them in it and gave them a chance to come back last week. But like I didn't leave that game feeling like really impressed by the Vikings. Um, and I just feel like, the Falcons, like to me, these feel like two really like good, close, competitive teams. And when I looked at that number and I just see the Falcons getting the three in the hook, I just like being like I like having that. I think they can keep this inside of a field goal. I think this is going to be a good, fun game to watch. I like them getting that that extra half point. So I'm on the Falcons side. All right. So we're spinning to decide the Monday night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like not excited about either of these games.
No.
Like I'm excited. Like I like Tampa and I like watching Tampa and like I enjoyed watching the Chargers last week, but I'm just like not excited about these matchups. I don't know. Something about them. I'm just like, eh.
Hmm.
All right, so we're doing Tampa.
Yeah. 2.5.
All right.
Texans.
Benny, lead us off.
Yeah. Yeah. Houston's at home -2.5.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm on Houston here. I think it just kind of smells like a public dog rat line for Tampa Bay there. People are gonna really like how they, came away with that win last week, but I mean, the loss was right there for them. And then, you're coming off of a game where Houston looked so bad. The offense didn't move the ball at all. Nico Collins was essentially non-existent. They couldn't really get anything going on the ground, and they're still 2.5 point favorites against a you know Tampa team that feels hot, coming off of how they played last year. I think Baker Mayfield's a pretty common dark horse MVP candidate, all that. Yeah, the line doesn't really make too much sense to me. So because of that, I'm going crisscross on it. And then, taking the home favorites that seem kind of like a questionable spread. I mean, against Tampa Bay, you know, tight ends can do pretty well, slot guys, outside wide receivers. So they can move Nico Collins in and out, look to get him involved. I think Dalton Schultz is a good tight end that they can, look to get involved. I mean, when they want to, when he needs to step up and they want to throw to him, he's a good 35, 40-yard guy. He can sneak away with a touchdown, anything like that. And then I'm just looking at, the things that kind of work against Houston. And it's like, okay, like they're pretty weak against tight ends, but is Kate Otten gonna carry them to a victory? I'm not so sure. So, I like Houston at home. Like I said, the line just kind of stinks to me for Tampa. It just feels too good to be true to be getting them as dogs. So because of that, I'm going to go on the other side, especially inside of a field goal.
I uh I think that line might stink too much for me to go with the crisscross. I am I think I'm gonna go Bucks. I'm gonna go
You
Bucks.
look like your brain hurts.
I think they're trying to trick everybody that you know that wants to play sharp, that wants to play it sharp. I think the Bucks are the better team. Um, the the Texans just that game last week against the Rams. I watched, obviously a good bit of it because that was the game that I had for for this for Armani. So I watched pretty much all of it. They have some pretty big problems. Their defense is pretty stout, but offensively they just kind of look lost. Seems like it's going to be pretty hard to find themselves. At least a week. In a week's time, I think it may take more time to gel than than just a week. And the Bucks, they have a lot of good players and a lot of good positions. So I like the Bucks to put up enough points um, and to just win outright.
So is it like a reverse rat line for you?
It's like the almost
Is that
most
the
rat line.
nomenclature?
Yeah, it's the most ratty rat line. I'm ratting out myself.
All right.
All right. Yeah, I struggle with this one a little bit because the line was fishy to me. Did smell a little bit. Um, but I think I'm with you, Bowen.
Oh no!
And
Couldn't see that one
the
coming.
the reverse rat line. Um, I put this in my notes. I mean, this is probably one where and maybe it's a good thing, maybe it'll work out, but I'm probably just betting with my heart here. Um, I'm a Bucks fan. I'm a Baker fan. I'm a Mike Evans fan. I'm a Bucky Irving fan. I don't
I
even
mean, you said
know
it
how
all
to
throughout the
pronounce.
podcast, and then you even said that the line stinks. So, go with your heart, or you say the line stinks. I'm sure it'll work out.
Tristan, you know what we
Well,
did here, right? We
what?
the two primetime games. We are both on the same side. That can't bode well. there's,
This is why they play the games.
there's no way
This
this
is why
works
they
out.
play
Two
the
road
games.
dogs in prime time. I'm sure. No, I'm sure we'll go with 2-0.
There's no way this works out.
We'll let them decide it on the field. But yeah, I'm a Bucks guy, and I I liked what I saw out of them. I didn't like what I saw out of Houston. I know it's early. I know things can change week to week, but I'm gonna bet with my heart here and go with the Bucks. So that's my pick.
Sounds like a good case. I've really been swayed.
Uh,
We're so back. We're so back.
we're so back. Armani suits and run. Unstoppable force. We are invincible.
Oh fuck.
All right. So recapping the picks. Um, I'm on the Jaguars plus 3.5. Kiernan's on the Browns plus 11.5. Bowen's on the Eagles -1. Our Sunday night pick, we're on the Falcons plus 3.5. That's thanks to me and Bowen. Kiernan's on the Vikings -3.5. And then for the Monday night game, we're on the Tampa Houston game. Bowen and I once again on the same side, taking the Bucks plus 2.5. That'll be the pick. Kiernan's with the Texans. So we shall see. It's going to be very interesting Sunday night and Monday night. I'm sure the Armani suits and run text chat is going to be lighting up.
We'll be sitting on a 3-0 week though, going into that Sunday night game, and I think we'll have
So,
we'll be in a good spot.
I
Win or
hope so.
lose.
Yep. But I'm bracing myself for Sunday and Monday night.
We
You guys
are
sound confident.
Well,
You guys sound real
it's
confident.
more
Yeah.
of I'm more bracing myself that if we're wrong.
I hope I'm wrong.
Just what we're subjecting ourselves to. So, and then having to face you on the podcast next week.
Yeah, I mean, what was it? Oh yeah, I know the Vikings defense looked really good, but no, you guys really sold me on both sides. So I hope I'm wrong.
oh god. Yeah.
Well, you know, we'll see. We shall see.
All right, fellas.
Owen can't even look. He's covered his. All right, 5-0. Let's do it. We'll
Love
be
you
eight and
guys.
two. We get back together next week. See you guys.
Later.
That's it.
Later.